Folks, it's a special day here on the number one college football show. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us here live. I understand that some of y'all see the live clips for the first time and you day late and a dollar short. If you're here on time, we do this at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesdays and on Sundays. And we go live on Saturday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love it if y'all would join us here. It's just little old me in 4K talking at you. But today is September 10th, 2024, which is an anniversary here on the number one college football show. And I got a phone call from a buddy who had a kiddo not long after I started doing this show. And the kiddo is an Oklahoma fan. And the kiddo has come to start calling me Bestie RJ because he watches the show, and he's watched the show since he was a tyke, and it makes him happy. He's an Oklahoma fan, like his daddy. And he called me, and he wanted to tell me happy anniversary. Also, RJ, do we suck? And I said, it ain't looking good, little man. It ain't looking great at all. He says, because RJ, it looks like I need to be playing quarterback for OU. And I said, yeah, I understand how you could come to that conclusion. And he said, RJ, I'm getting ready to get on my own step mill because I can't put up with what we're getting out of OU's offense. And I'm like, dog, you are your daddy's son. He called me to wish me a happy anniversary, and he wearing me out about Oklahoma. He said, I'll play quarterback, and my daddy can call the plays. And I said, well, he does know what you like to run. And I kid you not, the kiddo, he hit me with the sign off. He said, Bestie RJ, what do we run when we're down? And I said, 4 verticals. And he said, yes, sir. And he hung up the phone. I love y'all, man. It's 7 years today that we have been doing this show. And we started with absolutely 0 subscribers to this show. 105,000 people have subscribed to the number one college football show with RJ Young, and that being me. Dog, I can't tell y'all how sincerely overwhelming that is. I get emotional about these things because this is my heart, this is my soul. This is quite literally what is it? It is the entirety of my 30s. It is, man, I've been covering this sport for half my life. And we got started doing this, for those of you that don't know, on a thing called a step mill. And we got started doing this on a step mill at a time in my life that was really difficult, right? I miss talking about this team. I miss talking about Oklahoma football. And I was at a very low point in life. And I got up on this thing called a step mill because I've blown out both of my knees, and I can't run for more than 3 miles without my knees swelling up to high heaven, so I have to do the low impact stuff. So I'm on a step mill. And I started shooting these videos on my iPhone and cutting them up in iMovie, and I posted them to this thing called YouTube. And friends saw these things, and they said, yo, dog, these are awesome. Could you keep making more of these? And I'm like, all right. I mean, I'm having fun with it. And then Oklahoma went up to Ohio State, and Baker Mayfield got one back for us because we got embarrassed in 2016 at home. Had JT Barrett styling on me in Norman. And Baker said, no, the so savage said, no, we're going to go up there and we're going to go get this. Beat Ohio State and planted the OU flag in the O block. Man, I was so hyped the next morning, got up on the step mill because I do this every day because I'm a workout freak. That's what I do. And I shot this video, and you can find it on the channel. It's there. I didn't know how live I was in there, but you could also see just what kind of mood I'm in. The Genesis gym, dog. I'm in a public gym. You know what I'm saying? Making these videos. And that became the mantra. So it went from I'm on a step mill, or I'm back on a step mill, to I'm not on a step mill. And 7 years later, we have not only hit this threshold of 100,000 subscribers to the show, but we work at Fox Sports, and we talk about college football. And we make a top 25 that is one of the most read things on foxsports.com each and every week because, well, I love the sport, I like to think that I'm smart about the sport, and I respect your opinion about the sport. This is one of the reasons I love doing the show is I get to talk with y'all, see what y'all are saying, especially in the comments. I know that you see the fist bump, you know that I'm dapping you up. You see the upside down smiley face, and I'm like, I don't know if I get down with that. Every now and again, I'll say something else, and there are some OGs on the channel that you'll know by just how I respond to them. One is Doc Winston O'Boogie, who actually put me on to Natural Light, who ended up featuring me in a Super Bowl ad, which is wild. Terry Beckham and my whole brunch family, Laurel and my girls, Weapon X and Brave. It's a long time that we have been doing this, and my goodness, it still feels like we're only getting started. As wild as that feels, you know what I'm saying? Because it's basically, this is it. This is what you get. I ain't got no B-roll over here. I don't run no photos. Not really, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you see it, me out here is talking to you just like this is because we like to have our conversation. And you'll never know when you get something from me. Like, hell, I dropped last night to talk about Nebraska football because I'm overjoyed for Nebraska, and I'm terrified for Oklahoma, but we'll get to that. So I want to acknowledge that off the rip. Start with what we got on the topics, because we got to talk about Ohio State and who's a threat to them. We got to talk about the Georgia way. We got to talk about Arkansas's defensive line problem. We got to talk about Texas, and we got to talk about Oklahoma. But let's start with the headline, right? Can anybody stop Texas? Is Ohio State better than number 2 Texas? Can number 4 Alabama eventually beat Georgia? These are all very interesting questions, but who can stop Texas is a really interesting question for me. Can number 2 Texas win a national title? Because that's what we're talking about. We are talking about Texas being one of the best college football programs in America, and we have slotted them to be in the SEC championship game. Nick Saban did this, and I don't think he enjoyed doing this. He said to everybody in July at SEC Media Days that Georgia and Texas, the 2 best teams in in the SEC, right? And then he had to deal with that because, Alabama people, they had something to say about this. Like, what you doing, Nick? You get this job at ESPN, all of a sudden you forgot who you are? No, that's not how that works. Nick Saban is learning what it's like to do my job when you got a squad. When everybody knows what your team is and everybody want to know, is your bias going to show up? Nah, dog. Like, I care too much about the sport for my bias to show up. I don't really get down with the hosts that do college football stuff that don't claim to have biases or don't claim to have a team. I think that's a flat-out lie because we got into this because we love a specific team, and then we grow to love the sport. But, that's me. No shade to anybody that doesn't want to do it that way, but you know who I am from the jump. You know that OU is my program. That doesn't mean I'm going to come up here talking noise. Like, Homer radio is the worst. I hate Homer radio. I really do. If you suck, just say you suck because people are smart about that. Oklahoma, we don't feel real good. I just told you about a 7-year-old who was going, RJ, do we suck? If he can see it, everybody can see it. There's nothing you need to hide about that. To that point, Texas is good. Like full stop. Like, no qualifications. Texas is good. Texas feels back for good because they finally got a head coach that can get them all pulling in the same direction. My thing with Texas is they're always going to be the most talented football team in the state of Texas because they're always going to get all the best recruits from the state of Texas. All they got to do is offer them in time. Matt Brown's downfall was not being able to recruit. It was being bad with talent evaluation. Do you realize that Matt Brown missed on Robert Griffin III and Johnny Manziel? For real? Baylor had a Heisman winner because he wanted RG3 to not play quarterback. Johnny Manziel, a Heisman winner because he wanted Johnny Manziel to not be a quarterback at Texas. So he go to A&M, play for Sumlin, win that Heisman. You know what I'm saying? Georgia. Texas is going to get everybody they want, right? And now they got the number 1 player for the 2021 class in Quinn Ewers as their quarterback, and they're playing like it. It's a great football team. Texas is capable of winning the national championship, and it feels like outside of Georgia, who we absolutely get to see play Texas, the only team that is going to stop Texas from beating Texas is Texas. Like, it's Sark plans to coach that out of them, by the way. He's already way ahead on this. He knows what he has. Ahead of UTSA, who they play this week, Sark said he has warned his team against the Notre Dame scenario. And at this point, I would like to thank Coach Steve Sarkisian for watching the #1 college football show, where he most definitely saw me talk about Notre Dame putting the money in the bag against Northern Illinois. 16-14, and we taking that $1.4 million with us on the way out the door, okay? Just stuck you up in broad daylight at your house and then made off with the goodie bag. Like, I don't know, dog. Like, I would fit some kind of way there. The way that he put it was actually pretty good, because we're talking about the Michigan win was Texas' largest against a top 10 team on the road since 1979, and none of us care because Michigan is not that good. The AP ranked Texas number 2 after that win. Just anyway, right? I had him at 3. I still got him at 3. I still think it's fine. It'll work itself out. But Sark ain't having none of this. As a matter of fact, the quote he gave is really, really insightful, so I'm going to read it in full here. Human nature is human nature. So what, did this morning, so what I did do this morning is I walked them through the Notre Dame scenario of the Irish going into College Station a week ago and winning that game and being anointed a top 5 team in the college football playoff, then a week later, losing to Northern Illinois. Okay. I showed them that clip of Cannon Woodall's game-winning field goal, and I showed them the clip of Northern Illinois storming the field this morning as a good reminder that we're entitled to nothing. We're capable of anything. We've got a really good football team, but we're entitled to nothing. We're going to earn everything, and we're going to have to earn the victory here Saturday night. Talk about UTSA San Antonio. I think that's a great way to look at it because it is a team that is capable of winning it all. They can run the table. They really can. Now, do they need to run the table? No, but your losses can't be to places like Texas San Antonio. And I got to tell y'all, Jeff Traylor got a squad down there full of road runners. Jeff Traylor didn't trade in being one of the great high school football coaches in the sport to be head coach at UTSA and not win. He would like nothing more than to go down to the 40 acres and give them the what for and the how now, courtesy of San Antonio, okay? He knows what he has, and they would love to find Texas napping. And I'm telling you, Sark is trying to put them boys on Front Street. This would be the hardest week of practice that they have had so far, if it was me. I would be driving them into the ground going, you will not put the money in the bag to no road runners who were born yesterday. Realize this. UTSA didn't even have a football team until the 2010s. It was never heard of. And here they come trying to show up to the 40 acres where they've been playing football for the better part of 125 years, and they're going to try to take everything you got. They see that 2 next to your name, and they're going to try to rip it off of your chest. So you better be prepared. You better be ready to ride for Bevo and them. You better be prepared to put on that burnt orange, as ugly as it is, and go straight to work. Because you need to make this done and over by halftime. Full stop. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would have them do. And you know what? If you don't see it that way, you need to just take another look at Notre Dame. Notre Dame went into that game against Northern Illinois, favored by 28 points. Notre Dame hadn't been upset at all when favored by 28 or more since 1995. And even then, it was a Power 4 conference team that upset them in Northwestern. By the way, that Northwestern team was really damn good. The Irish believed the hype, and Marcus Freeman said as much. Look, quote he gave is, this is the first time in my 3 years as a head coach that we have won the big game early in the season. Talk about A&M. 2 losses to Ohio State, and then all of a sudden we win, and everybody says, hey, you're going to the playoffs. You got an easy schedule. We all hear it, and I think we started to believe it. There is a physical approach to preparing for a game, and I think physically we are prepared the right way. But there's also a mental approach and a mindset that you have to have every single week, and I think we failed. So that's the second time in Marcus Freeman's tenure at Notre Dame that they have put the money in the bag against the G5 program. The first one being Charles Huff Marshall. Marshall gets to play Ohio State next week, and I guarantee you, no. But the point is the same. If you are not mentally prepared for everybody you face, you can get beat. Because somebody somewhere has decided, nah, I've had enough of Notre Dame. Nah, I've had enough of Texas. It's the reason why when you see Georgia playing a non-conference opponent, it's never close. Like, they're always going to try to bend you in half and break you in half. That's what they do. They want this game out of reach. There is nothing to do in the third quarter except put on a 10-minute running clock, or so they would want, right? I think Texas fans, if they feel a little bit cagey, it ain't because Oklahoma's on the schedule. It ain't because Georgia's on the schedule. It's because games like this one, when you got an in-state opponent who is so tired of hearing about how good Texas is that they can't wait to give you the what for and the how now. They cannot wait. So you better be ready to go. Now, after UTSA, we get to talk about a really cool scenario for Texas. One of the things I love most about this particular season is it is really difficult for people to dodge somebody. It's one of the reasons why I was so grateful to see Northern Illinois knock off Notre Dame, because we ain't got to talk about Notre Dame no more. You know what I'm saying? The schedule is weak. If they go through the rest of it undefeated, we're still not going to give them credit to get into the college football playoff, because you ain't going to have beat nobody. Nobody we care about. Okay? You beat A&M, and then you lost Northern Illinois, and that stays forever. Okay? That's like a face tattoo right here that you can't laser off. We just see that. We can't see you without seeing that. But everybody else got to prove it. Everybody else got to go through it. So in the case of Texas, we're talking about Oklahoma on October 12th, followed by Georgia on October 19th. Back to back, baby. And they got Arkansas, who hates Texas. And they got A&M, who really, really hates Texas. And I can't wait for that. So we got a potential number 1 versus number 2, with Georgia traveling to the number 2, which I love, right? October 19th. And then I got to underscore this for the folks that do not know. Arkansas, who we will talk about a little bit later on the show, really, 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 really needs to beat 2 teams. Both of those teams happen to be in the state of Texas. One of them is A&M, who they can't stand, and the other one is Texas, who they really can't stand. Like, I point this out as often as I can to Texas fans that 1969, their national championship team is the last all-white national championship team. And they don't like it. They don't like it. Darrell K. Royal didn't like it. And what Darrell would say is, if we weren't the national champions, it would have been Arkansas. And I'm like, but it wasn't. It was y'all. Meanwhile, Arkansas was like, RJ, I don't give a damn what you call us. I would love to be the 1969 national champions. Because they hate Texas so much. Steve Sarkisian said at SEC Media Days, Arkansas hates Texas more than they love themselves. And on the one hand, somebody was like, damn, that's cold. And then Sam Pittman got up there, and Sam Pittman said, was asked that question, does Arkansas hate Texas more than they love themselves? And he said, he's probably right. Yeah, Arkansas hates Texas more than they love themselves. And that is the secret sauce to our sport. This is why our sport is always going to be that much better than the NFL. We would rather watch you lose than see us win. I know, it sounds bass-backward to anybody else in any other sport. But I'm here to tell you, man. Until you get to that pinnacle of like Alabama, Georgia, whatnot, where you expect to win every game you play, and you are in dynasty mode, literally, you are stacking national championships. Until then, the one thing you need in your life every single year is to watch your hated enemy lose a game they really want to win. That's why we all having fun watching Northern Illinois beat up on Notre Dame, because we all can't stand Notre Dame. We can't stand none of us like Notre Dame. Only Notre Dame people like Notre Dame. It brings us out of us, right? I'm saying? We had a private school at Notre Dame. We had a private school in Miami, and we were all rooting for Miami. That's how this works. If we can't stand you, we need to see you lose in the worst way. So yeah, we will cut off our nose, spite our face if it makes you look bad. That's what's going to happen. So I can't wait. I think Texas is going to get through UTSA just fine, mostly because Steve Sarkisian read them the riot act, but also because I need them to be undefeated when Georgia comes to town. I really do. I need that to happen because if Georgia's able to stop a mud hole in Texas and walk it dry, and then they got to play Texas again in the SEC championship game, we might be playing for keeps. That might be playing for who's getting into the college football playoff and who ain't. Get what I'm saying? That's going to be fun. That's going to be a lot of fun. Want to acknowledge folks in the chat right quick. Once again, 7th anniversary of this channel being here. 105,000 people have subscribed to this channel, which is a wild number. Wild number. You know why it's a wild number? I don't do television. I don't do radio. I do this. You know what I'm saying? You know, there are other shows, they get publicized here and there. You know, that you got to you do a podcast in addition to doing TV. You know, you do a podcast in addition to doing national radio. This is just us. This is us on the tube, right? Making it happen. And I am always going to be grateful for that. That's so awesome, you know? And it's showing up, you know what I mean? It's showing up. Like programs that normally wouldn't even come to hear me talk, they're hear me talk about, everyone will hear me talk about Oklahoma for obvious reasons. But like Arkansas folks, you know, they make a big part of this. Texas folks make up a big part of this. Ohio State folks make a big part of this, man. And on and on. Anytime I get to talk about a new college football program because they've broken through to the national conversation, I'm always grateful because those folks tend to give me a hard look and say, what is this national guy doing talking about my team? And I say, hey, dog, I'm here because y'all are good. I'm doing this with Syracuse right now. You know, I rank Syracuse in the top 25 in our last one because I think Syracuse is a good football team. And I think that they got a road here to be great. And one of the reasons is Kyle McCord turns out to be pretty damn good. He went for 350 plus against Ohio, 380 plus against Georgia Tech, in an upset against Georgia Tech, who was ranked at the time. So Syracuse fans are feeling themselves. On the one hand, I'm glad for Syracuse fans. On the other hand, I don't like pumping up another J school because J schools tend not to know how to act when their football team is good. You know, they want to go for it from all angles, and they want to talk about who is talking about Oronde Gadsden and who is not. I need the J school folks to sit down somewhere and let the football folks at Syracuse do some talking, okay? If you ain't coming to me with Jim Brown first, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. If you coming to me with Syracuse is a great journalism school, get out of my face. Get out of my face. Same thing I do with Northwestern. Get out of my face. Missouri, get out of my face. I don't want to hear none of that. I want to hear somebody from back in the woods in New York who has made the Orangemen their team. That's what I want to hear. And that's what this show is for. This show is for the folks that stop during their lunch break to pull up a segment and watch it. I am always floored by that. That is so cool. Like, if people tell me in the comments or they see me out in the wild, they'd be like, yo, dog, real talk, I be loading up on the segment so I can watch them while I'm at work because I work the graveyard shift. Or I be loading up on the segments because I am hauling freight from one end of this country to the other. You know, if you work for a living, you are who this show is for. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't do no shows for no CEOs. We don't do no shows for no business people. You know, we get it how we live down here. You know what I'm saying? We get up out the mud to go to work. We got to make sure people got pants on to go to school in the morning. We got to know who the light bill is getting paid to and why. And like, one of the things I always tell about college football coaches as we get into who is a threat to Ohio State, I put it this way. If you are not a great college football coach, and by great, I mean you are not winning championships every other year, you need to get fired. You need to get fired. You need to get fired. You know why? Because you ain't got but one job. You got one job. One. Usually, a coach's wife, she got 12 jobs. You know, everybody else got 12 jobs. You got one job. Your job is to coach football. You ain't got to worry about what clothes you wearing. You ain't got to worry about who paying the mortgage. You ain't got to worry about what time drop-off is. You ain't got to worry about what time school lets out. You ain't got to worry about cheerleading practice. You ain't got to worry about volleyball practice. You ain't got to worry about guitar lessons. You ain't got to worry about none of that. All you got to do is coach football. And I'm here to tell you, you got one job. You better be the best damn person in the world at that job because there's too many of us out here doing 85 jobs just to get by. You know what I'm saying? We out here like a Talib Kweli song out here just to get by. I don't want to hear nothing from no millionaire coaches talking about it's hard to coach. Get up out my face, dog. Get up out my face. If you don't want to do it, hell, I do it. You know, I got a phrase here in the state of Oklahoma. There are 3 million head coaches of OU football, but only one's getting paid to do it, okay? And if you ain't got that on your chest, every time you walk out the door, every time somebody puts a microphone in front of your face, you in the wrong profession. You in the wrong job. I need you to be quiet. Sit down somewhere. No, we work for a living out here.